guys, welcome to episode 9 of the BJJ STOREROOM podcast. We have a very special guest, Mathew Barr. Again, always, Eduardo's back here again. Again, we'll just quickly introduce everyone. Eduardo is a 4th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm also a black belt. I'm actually a 1st degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. And Barr's a brand new black belt also at Gaha gym in Queensland, Kelvin Grove HQ. And again, we always generally start with like a real basic question, but like just introduce yourself a little bit and kind of like also introduce how you kind of led to starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, when did you start? Were there particular reasons why you started? We'll start with this question as like an introduction, and then we'll kind of go from there.
So I'm from Brisbane, born and bred, and I grew up playing a lot of sports. That was a pretty big part of my life. So when I was much younger, I was a swimmer, and then I progressed into rugby union and played rugby through all my childhood, and then also tennis as well. So sports has always been a pretty big part.
What ages did you start? Like, did you start with one of them first, or were they all?
Swimming. I was swimming since I was 4, and then I was, as I got a bit older, even before the age of 10, I started competitively swimming. So that was to the point of, getting up, training in the morning before school, then after school finished, training back to the pool again. And then about 7 years old, I started playing rugby. Played that till I was 18. And that was through my local junior rugby club. And then also high school rugby, school rugby as well, through junior school and high school. And then tennis was another big one that I played. And that was probably the most competitive I played, where I actually travel around and do tournaments.
Did you? So that was like through a club or like a personal thing?
I played through a club. So I played through a number of different clubs on the north side of Brisbane, and then through school as well. So that was probably the most competitive I played at competitive level. I played sports. So I do a lot of like state and national tournaments, things like that. But then I just didn't really...
When did you start, when did you start Jiu-Jitsu in that kind of like timeline?
Jiu-Jitsu? So Jiu-Jitsu I started after high school, so I was 19.
Okay,
18.
so already after playing all these other sports?
So I had stopped playing sport, and I was, I was still into like fitness, and I was going to the gym and lifting weights, and so after that I sort of, I got a bit bored of just the standard going to the gym and lifting weights to look good. So I decided to start Jiu-Jitsu. But before that, when I was in high school, and it's a pretty stock standard stories, watching the UFC, and then you kind of get that interest. So I started watching UFC when I was like 14, and actually at the age of 15 I went and trained at an MMA gym in Brisbane. I trained there for about a year, and it was a different time then, I think, where it was a lot more... The guys who go into those sort of gyms are, rough and tough. The gym itself is a pretty competitive MMA gym, so there's a lot of focus on just the fighters themselves. So it probably wasn't the best environment, maybe as a young kid, to like learn how to do MMA, I guess. But I did prefer the grappling aspect of it. So I wrapped up there, and that was in high school, and then I took a couple of years off and away from it, and then all of a sudden I just thought, I'm just going to come down to Gaha and try out this jiu-jitsu stuff.
What made you pick Gaha?
Honestly, probably just the proximity to where I was living. I didn't really know much about the level of training or anything else. It was like jiu-jitsu, okay, it's 10 minutes down the road, I'm going to go there. And then, you go in there and there's, a couple of black belts, Eduardo, Ricardo, remember Ricardo as well? He was there at the time. And then, so basically got bitten by the bug, I guess, and it became like
the funny, like this story, like, is very, like, common, you know what I mean? Like, we've interviewed other people, like Tony, for example, and it has, like, a very, very similar layout, like somebody that started something competitive or sports, and Tony was the same with swimming, starting from 4 or 5 years old swimming, and, training super hard, getting up super early in the morning, going and training late in the afternoon, blah, 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 blah. Like, man, just this discipline to go there and do that. And I just think it's an interesting parallel to draw for guys that end up getting good at jiu-jitsu or end up doing well in like a lot of different areas in their life, have the same kind of layout or the same kind of framework for like when they started earlier in their life. You know what I mean? For me, it's an interesting thing to kind of start to notice about a lot of people, for whatever reason, like being exposed to challenge and failure and things like that early on through sports for some reason leads to people doing better in life.
But and there's also the other aspect as well, which is like you see that when they start early or when they have that feeling about doing a sport, how that make them feel like better. So even like a guy that does any other sport, when they stop doing nothing, they feel, I have this sensation, if you don't do nothing, you want to do something like in any kind of sport just to make you feel good. It's part of a like of life balance. And there's many people that never tried before sports and they will try maybe at 25, maybe at 30. And when they come, they're like, oh my God, they have the endorphin coming on them and they just go, oh, this is amazing, you know? I think that's important.
Yeah, I definitely think growing up playing sports, you sort of just carry that, you know, such a part of your life that as you get older and, you know, unless a lot of people will quit sports because as you get older, unless there's like you're doing it professionally, life gets in the way. But yeah, for me, sports has always been a big aspect of my life and so important. So I think that's what's led me to be, once I trained jiu-jitsu and fell in love with it, is, you know, it's become such a massive part of my life.
I think a lot of people, look, I don't like, there's not like a political statement or whatever, but I think a lot of people, particularly young guys, you know what I mean, lose like their ability, or they're told not to like focus on being too masculine. That's what I see happening, even with like the boys that come here from school and stuff like that. And I think they need to have an outlet that they can be aggressive, or they can be, you know, like, you know, not violent, but like they're releasing this frustration that they have as a person. And there's not many outlets where you can do that safely and comfortably, and it's an acceptable scenario, except a lot of this sports stuff like playing rugby. And man, it's common to do aggressive stuff in rugby. That's what it is, and it's okay, and you're allowed to do that as long as it's within the rules, obviously, and blah blah blah. But I think like people, particularly guys, this is my opinion again, I think most dudes, all right, or boys or teenage guys and stuff like that don't have an outlet for this type of frustration that builds within young boys, you know what I'm saying? And for whatever reason, what you learn through sport, and particularly through jiu-jitsu, is how to channel that energy into something positive, into something that you can use to improve yourself as a person, or develop and evolve in different aspects of your character. And for people that don't figure this stuff out until they're 25 and things like that, it's great that they figure it out at that age, but a lot of people never get the opportunity, or they're never exposed to how to learn how to harness their emotions and push it into things productively. And I think, in my opinion, that's why this pattern shows all the time. You know what I mean? This pattern of you know, starting sports young and being competitive, and, you know, through that competition, you're going to fail at things. You're going to make mistakes, you're going to lose, you're going to have all these things, and you're going to overcome challenges. And through that, you start to learn how to channel your emotions into things positively. You know what I mean? And that's something that I think is super interesting to kind of like, the more we talk with a lot of the guys here that end up getting to black belt or on their way to getting there, it's always a very similar story all the time.
True.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Matt, well, in talking about black belts, you recently become a black belt. That was amazing. You had an amazing speech, by the way. I was thrilled about it. I think you connected all aspects of
for people
on
that
your
are,
speech.
For the people that just aren't aware, like what do you do here? They'll have a tradition at Gaha that.
Yeah, it's a very traditional belt ceremony. You know, you get awarded your black belt. Jiu-Jitsu takes a long time, and after that, you get graduated, and then you put the belt. So like your coach will put the belt on you, and perhaps in a black belt, they're probably gonna say something about yourself and the coach words, and then after that, you're gonna have a speech. You're gonna do a speech for everyone else that's on the grading day, together with you, all the other students, but. I just want to go through it. Like, how does it feel? Because for me, it's been a long time, right? And it's such an achievement, right? Like personal achievement. Just because it is extremely hard to get to that position, right? There's a lot of effort. Like university, you might finish in 5 years. You know, black belt, you might take 10, maybe more time. and there's battles with injuries, there's battles with moving and working, lifestyle balances, etc. So how does it feel at that moment to be awarded a black belt? What does it feel, the journey as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously super special. Everyone, I guess, when you sort of first start, you look at this, like the black belts as like, that's so far down the road. It's hard to achieve. It's just, you don't even think you could ever get to that point. But it's funny you say that. As I started to get better at jiu-jitsu and progress through the belts, it was the less I became focused on the actual achieving of the belt, and more I became focused on just getting better at jiu-jitsu and the techniques. But yeah, it's a massive journey, and it's like it took a long time, and obviously it's something that I worked pretty hard to get. But at the same time, when I say I worked hard to get, I loved coming down here, so it was never really something that I had to grind through. It was I look forward to coming down to jiu-jitsu. So in that respect, it's not difficult because it's something that I love to do. So, but yeah, it felt pretty special. It was probably, it's to me probably one of the biggest achievements I've ever had. I finished university and things like that, but I find that you can just sort of make your way through university or high school, whatever you want to call it, by just doing the bare minimum at times, and just pass. You just pass and you make it through, and it's fine. But jiu-jitsu is really hard in the sense that you need to be good. I think you need to be able to reflect on your weaknesses all the time, and you need to be accountable for what they are, and you need to
actively.
You need to address those, and you need to think about it outside of the gym. You can't. It's not enough to just come down here and go through the techniques and drill the techniques and then roll. You need to go home. You need to go, what did I do wrong today? Why did I get my guard pass like this? Why did I get swept? Okay, let's think about it, and then go back to the next training and address it. And I think that's the thing that jiu-jitsu's taught me the most, is that, it's personal accountability, I suppose.
Well, being your coach from the beginning, right? So that was something that insights that I have the other day when I was thinking about some questions to ask you. I remember at one point, for example, this came really vivid in my head. At one point, I was talking, give you feedbacks. We train together, or give you feedback, and obviously the coach in his heart, he wants to make the person better, and he's trying to he's giving you feedback in goodwill. And I remember initially you have very you felt upset that you're getting that, you're getting upset at one point, you couldn't really receive that and transforming development, right? And there was one point which I could not pinpoint that point. That's what I want to ask you. That you changed, and then you started to receive that information and be more thirsty, and understood that was providing, that's what's going to be another form of providing your development in BJJ. And then suddenly you become that very thirsty about knowledge and open to and accountable, to your development. And when was, in your opinion, when was that turning point? What happened? There was something, a specific action that happened one day, or there was just something natural transition, or
I don't know if it was a specific point. I think
do you remember the belt, that transformation? I was talking to Anthony, maybe blue, maybe purple, but I honestly don't remember what was that. That's what I want to ask you.
I'd say blue going into purple was when I started to really pick up on the techniques and started to sort of take what you would say in. I think at the beginning, I probably wasn't that receptive of the feedback because I felt personally attacked.
Yeah. Yes.
But I think that's more, it can come down to a maturity thing. I was still 19, 20 at the time. So as I've gotten older, you sort of realize that you begin to appreciate these people just telling it how it is. Yeah. You can, at the end of the day, if you're doing something wrong and the black belt's telling you doing something wrong, you can either go, get offended and go, oh, I suck, this and that, or you can go, all right, well, I suck, or I'm not doing this right, I need to change it. And I think that comes down to, developing maybe a thicker skin or, just being more receptive to criticism, I suppose.
I think, like you kind of said it before, though, as well. Like, you actually said it before in the last question. You said at some point in time, your goal changed. It wasn't about, like, getting this belt or getting this thing or getting this accolade or level of status. It was just about, like, my goal was just to improve and to get better. And I think that is probably at the same time that happened is when you also become more receptive to, and it could be maturity and evolving as a person and all that type of thing, or understanding like the reality of jiu-jitsu. And I think, like, for me, the coolest thing about jiu-jitsu is how there's no bullshit. Like, it doesn't matter what you believe, it doesn't matter your doctrine or ideology of what you think is the way of living, or life is like this, or things like that. It does not matter. Doesn't matter if you're this ethnicity or this ethnicity. Jiu-jitsu works like this for everybody. And unless you do that, you don't have success. Unless you do that, and unless you do exactly what Matt said before, is you go and magnify your flaws and actively work on improving them, you don't get better. You don't improve. And it's not about how you feel. It's not about how you think. It's not about what color the sky is. And
it's not about how you want other people to think about you. There's nothing to do with that.
It's got nothing to do with your pride or any of this emotional stuff. It works like this, and it's completely honest in that way. And that's the beauty that I find in jiu-jitsu, is there's nothing more honest in the world than this thing, because it doesn't matter any of these variables or situational things. This is how it operates. This is how it works. And if you take the time to understand that, you can achieve the things that you want. And for me, that's beautiful, because you give people the ability to control life, which is normally uncontrollable.
Yeah, I feel like this is a big issue with, especially like, the white belts or beginning on the journey, is they're all about getting the coloured belt, moving up.
Big time.
And the issue with it's not bad to focus on that. I mean, everyone does it, I suppose.
It's just that if that's the only goal, it doesn't last.
You get your blue belt, now what? You still got 7 years, 8 years away from getting a black. Like, you that can't be the focus. The focus should be getting better at jiu-jitsu, and then the belts will eventually reflect that.
Yeah.
But do you agree with that? The fact that for you to get better in jiu-jitsu, right, you're gonna have to work on your weaknesses. You're gonna have to keep thinking, and you're gonna have to open up. And that'll be your jiu-jitsu at short term. With mine, there's big chance they'll get worse. Because you're not going to be using your best game, your A game, because you will open up.
But I don't think that's getting worse, and that's the common problem that people have. Like, they're focused on results, and the problem is when you focus on results, whether I won or I lost, it's not that it's getting worse. You just suffering.
Seem to get worse at first, but you
because you're losing. But do you know what I mean?
You're lapidating the much bigger, broader, technical yourself. Your best version.
So the funny thing is actually you're improving. You're just suffering the consequence.
Correct,
of
and you're not looking good. You might not feel great. People might not feel great.
But you only don't feel great if you care about the results. In the sense that if you go, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to try whatever position that I don't usually do, and I might get my guard past 50 times, but if you don't care and you know in your head, you're like, man, I'm taking risks and I'm trying to get better at this, and you understand that, yes, at the start you're not good at it, and you're going to suffer the consequences in terms of them passing the guard or whatever that may be. But if you know in your head at the time the end result is I'm going to get better at this position and eventually this will be part of my game, then it doesn't really that's never really bothered me. Like, I've never had a issue with trying new things, and I don't care too much about if I get my guard, if it doesn't work in training.
If you lose. So you learn how to put your pride aside, which is almost impossible for a lot of people.
Yeah, and even, I mean, like, I'm not perfect. Like, even times like, oh, man, I'll get mad if I make a mistake and things like that. But ultimately, I think you have to come to training, and Anton always touches on this at training, is the purpose of coming here to train is skill acquisition. It's not to win. This isn't the World Championships. This isn't a competition. And
I think Anton is an active example, like that, someone that's actually in training, trying to develop techniques all over and over and different, going exploring and try to lapidate them, you know, like, so that for us is a great influence itself, you know what I mean?
And it feeds because he keeps it fresh, and because you try new things, it keeps jiu-jitsu fresh, and it makes you want to come back.
Yeah, enjoyable.
Whereas if you do the same thing over and over, you got your 3 positions that you do over and over again, then it gets boring and stale. So I feel like the more risks you take in training and trying new things out, the more fresh and interesting it becomes, and then that's when you get really addicted, and that's when you want to come back and you want to get better at it. And then eventually you've got, you know, a number of different positions you're competent at. And then you move on to the next things, or you try new things out and bring back positions you used to do. And that's, I think that's why I felt like I am addicted to jiu-jitsu and keep coming back year after year, is because I try to keep it fresh. Anyway.
Yeah, and you're exploring and you're trying new stuff and you're evolving and learning. Like for some of the guys, like, because you were saying before, like, you know, so it's harder for a lot of the white belts and blue belts, but it's not only harder for them. Like, there's guys here that have been training for 8 years, 10 years, like way longer, you know, than 12 years, you know, even longer, whatever, that still struggle with that part of their pride. Like, do you have any advice for people that don't know how to put their pride aside? And I'm, like you said before, I'm ultra competitive. You know what I mean? I'm ultra competitive. I don't like losing. I don't enjoy being beaten by somebody or getting my guard passed or whatever, but I still understand that to improve in jiu-jitsu, improve in skills, you are going to have to put your pride aside and accept what that means. And a lot of the time that means you are going to lose, that you are going to tap, that you are going to fail. And you can like weigh in on it as well. Like, what do you guys think about, because people will go to the grave over their pride. This is the crazy thing. They're working against themselves because they want to keep their pride intact. And it's not worth it. And the thing is like, in all scenarios, whether it's jiu-jitsu, business, relationship, whatever, pride is what, man, people hold on to the end of their life. And some people take that to the grave. They go all the way until the rest of their life, until, you know, they're 50, 60, they can't do the thing they wanted anymore, it's impossible, and it's too late, and now they want to change. And like, what's some words of advice that you can help?
I just think, like, you having to deal with pride is, you know, you get beaten on a Tuesday night, and it's Tuesday 6 o'clock. Guess what? Nobody cares.
Yeah,
like, who cares? It doesn't matter.
True.
Do you think you're going to look back in 5 years' time, 6 years' time, and remember that time you got beaten by someone that you think you're better than? Yeah. No one cares.
And the other thing, when you're coaching as well, like, people think that, what the coach could think. The coach also doesn't care. I always tell that.
Doesn't even see it.
Even if he sees it, he understands that it's a much broader thing than that, my friend.
It's one specific role on an obscure night at training.
And you're trying.
Who cares? No one cares.
But they care. And this is the problem. I don't know what it's... And this is advice that you can take into anything. Like, sometimes, like, for example, whether it's relationship, whether it's business, there's times you have to apologize. There's times that you have to, you know, take back the thing that you're doing that's overly aggressive, whatever. And we had Munsuk here talking, you know, in our last podcast about how he's had that same mindset in business, and he has to deal with people when he takes over companies and businesses and things like that, and he has to be nice to them. He can do it in an aggressive way, or he can do it in a nice way, and he puts his pride aside and goes, I'm not going to be horrible in this opportunity. I choose to be a decent person, and I choose to do this as amicably as possible. And for some people, it's just really, really hard to put that aside, because they've built their life on this pride. My pride is me. My pride is everything, and I'm going to go to the grave for that pride. And unfortunately, 20 years later, 30 years later, if they ever recognize it, they realize that it was a mistake. But the problem is people generally only find out at the end. They find out when it's too late to change, or they find out when it's too hard to adjust.
Yeah, you need to like what you said, let go of that pride. So you need to understand. Like, it's up to the student themselves, but at the end of the day, you can't.
Do you think that's something you had naturally going into it though, or is it something that you developed while doing jiu-jitsu? Like,
I'd say at the start, like Eduardo said, when he would give me advice, and I'd almost be like, you know, he thinks I suck, this and that, and you can go into this like negative spiral. I don't know. I think, as I progress, you just sort of begin to understand that you don't really know that much, and you can either just keep doing the same things that you're doing and hope for the results, or you can listen to what the more experienced coaches say to you and take that on board and try to address it. And I honestly think it is like the biggest thing that holds people's development back is the ego or the pride is.
For sure.
It's because they think, you know, they can't accept the fact that they're going to lose in training. You just have to understand that nobody cares and just let it go, and the goal is to get better.
I think the funny thing is like life's actually easy, it's people that are complicated. You know what I mean? Like you can listen to a podcast or you can have someone describe how things work to you, and it's easy to understand, but to go and do that in practice with your own emotions and all your own problems and all the things that you contribute to that thing is what makes it complicated. Because if you look at jiu-jitsu black and white, there's not really that many things to understand. It's like a few different ways your body moves, the mechanics of your body, and a few different understandings of this and that. And outside of that, you're doing the same thing over and over and over. But once you add all of this, and like I'm oversimplifying it, obviously, it is complicated and it is highly technical and all these things, but like the most difficult part of jiu-jitsu, aside from the skill itself, is the thing that people need to work on to be decent at anything, which is themselves. And nobody focuses much on that. You know what I mean? That's always something that you can just push off and blame other people for. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's the beautiful thing about this is it's not just, this mindset is not just applicable for jiu-jitsu. And this is, as I've been on this journey, what I've come to realise is like no matter what pursuit you do, you need to have the mindset, like the beginner's mindset of I don't know anything, that's okay, but what am I going to do tomorrow that can, you know, at least get me, it's just incremental changes, incremental...
1% better.
Yeah, 1% better. And then over the course of 10 years or 1 year or 1 month, that compounds, and then you're going to be, you know, so much better than what you were when you first started.
It's funny, like my next question is a bit like, you probably touch a few points here about the question, but essentially like how there are certain values and aspects that you if there are any, let me know, if that you can use in your personal life or in your work environment. You know, I know you work in corporate. Like, what are the aspects that you can take from jiu-jitsu that actually helps you in life or work?
I'd say probably like decision making under pressure, things like that. So the most difficult thing about a beginner starting jiu-jitsu, I find, would be dealing with the stress and the chaos of it all, and then, you know, rationalizing what's actually going on. And then as you get better at it, it becomes more mechanical. It's less chaotic. You learn to breathe, you learn to relax, and then you learn to sort of address what's in front of you. So that sort of skill set, I think, can be applied to no matter what situation you're in, whether it's work or personal life, being able to sort of just relax on it, like sort of take the breath, take a step, and then sort of just deal with what's actually in front of you, as opposed to getting, you know, caught up in the moment.
Emotionally responding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a funny story like Della Riva, which is it's a person, right? It's a very famous master in Brazil. Had an amazing guy that was called Della Riva, and he used to say when he started training really young, you know, and he was doing really well. He said like what jiu-jitsu add to the values you took to your life, and he said when I was young, I used to go shopping, and I had a hard time to decision make which trousers I'm gonna buy, and then after start doing jiu-jitsu, I go, no, this one, okay, let's go, you know, like that's how he put it. I found
made
it
more decisive.
Funny.
Yeah, definitely. I think jiu-jitsu as well has like made me a much more confident person. I wouldn't know how it would be personality wise without it now, without having done jiu-jitsu. And it's not so much confidence in the physical aspect of like, oh, I know how to like grapple, but it's more the confidence that I got. Because jiu-jitsu is like a difficult skill to acquire.
To believe in yourself.
Well, it's just given me perspective, and it's given me the confidence to go, okay, so I've applied myself to this particular path and I have become competent at it, and it's difficult. And I could, like, so now I look at things that potentially I want to do in, you know, employment-wise, career-wise, personal life stuff, that if I apply the same thing, like that, I sort of apply myself in that same way to no matter what pursuit I would pursue. I think that like applying what I've learned in jiu-jitsu to whatever pursuit I go down, at least I can become competent at a difficult pursuit.
Yeah.
It's given me sort of that confidence.
Yeah. I think that's, man, I don't really have too much to add to that. I think that's super accurate. Like, and you notice this in the kids, you notice this in so many different adults in terms of confidence. It's man, in my opinion, I always think it's got to do with the accountability and all the other stuff that we've talked about, because you just start introducing a avenue for people to start to evolve as a human being. And it's a difficult avenue. I understand that, it's worrying, it's scary, it's threatening and blah, blah, blah. And it is, your pride's getting smashed all the time. It's always getting smashed. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how good you are at jiu-jitsu. You're going to fail at techniques. You're going to miss opportunities to do submissions. You're going to get submitted yourself. They're going to pass your guard, whatever. And this is a tangible way of, your challenges coming up that you have to address. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the reason why it's difficult for people to comprehend this stuff in other aspects of their life is because it's not so tangible. And that's why I always talk about sports all the time. Like, in my opinion, physical pursuits like sports, like jiu-jitsu, like boxing, like kickboxing, like rugby, are a tangible way to show you that you have flaws as a human being and you have to correct them and improve on them. And if you only, do painting or this and that or blah, 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 and, you paint for yourself or you do this for yourself and there's no one else involved, you don't get the same feedback. You don't get the same feedback that, actually, this is not that good. Oh, this is not that good. Oh, this needs to get better. Oh, you need to paint like this to make it work better. Whatever. So, yeah, man, I just think it's such an important thing for anybody to commit to. You know what I mean? Like, male or female, whatever. I think particularly young guys like to figure this stuff out. Man, this is important to building confidence, to just evolving as a human being. You know what I mean? That's what I think anyway.
Matt, you being actually, like we're talking, that same person that initially didn't want to receive much advice because it wasn't it wasn't mature enough and he didn't know how to deal with it, suddenly becomes a coach and is doing a great job at giving the advice, which I observed as well. A lot of people give me this feedback, like even in a training session, you develop an amazing ability to give feedback to people, and that's like shaping the improvement, right? Just like I was trying to do with you, and you did it so well at absorbing all that you're actually doing. What was the how do you feel about these opportunities to be teaching here at Garra? Again, you're doing a great job. Your classes are always full. People look forward to I think you probably did some coaching before for swimming. I think you mentioned that to me one day.
Yeah.
And that probably helps as well. Just the ability of being coaching something, and I think you expose yourself when you talk to everyone. It's it's super clear. Like you didn't have that initial trouble that people have. When they start teaching.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Looking back when I first started coaching compared to now, I definitely was not as good. And I think coaching, just like jiu-jitsu, is just like is a skill. Yeah. And just because you're good at jiu-jitsu doesn't necessarily mean you're a good coach.
Absolutely.
And that was the biggest thing. The biggest struggle when I first started was, I can show the positions, but it's explaining why they work and why. So that was the biggest hurdle I had to overcome. And I think coaching has definitely helped my jiu-jitsu, because you have to think about the positions on a deeper level as opposed to just doing them because that's how this position's done. You have to actually think a step above that and go, this is why we do it. This is why it works, and this is why you put your foot here. This is why you make a grip here, because they can't post this way. So, that obviously then that understanding and that way of thinking about positions then translates into improving your jiu-jitsu itself. So that I felt like that was the biggest hurdle to overcome was speaking in front of a class as well. I've done public speaking before, but never really taught in front of a group of adults. But yeah, actually being able to explain why the positions work, and then that was probably the biggest hurdle.
I definitely agree with what you said about the technical acquisition or improvement from teaching though. Like, you truly have to understand the basis of jiu-jitsu in whatever scenario you're explaining. Because if you can't do that, how can you explain that to somebody else? How can you lead someone somewhere if you don't know yourself? You know what I'm saying? So this happens to me often. I'll start teaching something at the start of the week, and by the end of the week I've got 15 different extra points that I want to mention, because through the act of teaching it, I learn 20 different things that I also want to articulate and express. Now, obviously, in like a 1 hour class or an hour and 15 class, it's pretty difficult to do that. And that's why it's important that people come all the time, because, you know, in this class, I'm going to explain this point, and this point, and this point. And just slowly, you're giving all the information you have to other people. And I kind of talked with a few people about it. And for me, teaching's always been challenging for different reasons. Now it's gotten to a point where it's challenging because of what I'm talking about now. It's difficult for me to describe all of the things that I want to describe in like a 1 hour class, and particularly to describe it in a way that people can understand. And kind of like the easiest way to explain it is, you know, I talked with some guy in private that I was doing not long ago, and he's like, all right, you've got a master's degree in jiu-jitsu and we haven't even started high school yet. And you're trying to translate this information to me. And somehow you have to try and link that.
Bridge the gap.
Yeah, bridge the gap. And it's super difficult to do. And all you can do is, you know, your best to kind of, give it to them. And like you said before, it's just because you have a lot of knowledge doesn't mean you're a good coach. And that ability to transfer that information or bridge that gap is what coaching is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
it's funny, like at the start of the block when you're showing the positions, like when I would be teaching is, compared to the end of the block, you just become so much better at it.
More proficient.
Well, you're just more efficient. You've sort of like, because, you know, the southern block, you'll show it and then you'll go over some details, and then you're driving home that night.
And them as well. They also become a lot more proficient, you know, the students.
No, but we're just, you know, it's nice to talk about, because, man, we're not perfect. We don't know everything straight away. Like, even, you know, I mean, everybody's a human being. You know, I mean, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone's capable of doing the wrong thing, and everyone is constantly learning, and that's the cool thing about life in general. Like, we're all open to learning and improving ourselves all the time, and we do it within our own teaching. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but there's another aspect as well that's it. Like, we as coaches, that you also have the ability, like, or you start developing this ability of understanding. Of course, like, it takes time. It's not one person will come to the first class and you'll be able to kind of grasp that, but you start understanding where that person, how that person absorbs what you're showing, and, you know, and then what kind of feedback you can give to that person, like a bit more customized, where that person have more facilities to broaden up their game, so your advice will be more in that direction. That kind of feeling. It's like like a soccer coach. You're looking at the person, go, oh, you're gonna play as in defense. Oh, you're gonna be that kind of broader thing is also interesting, you know, because people learn different, and it's interesting to be able to see how this is have a touch on that as well. You know,
I agree with that, but I think people take too much ownership off of themselves and place it on other people. You know what I mean? Like, I think people need to be accountable for the fact that, like, you have to be coachable as a person. Like, you have to be able to receive information. Like, kind of like what you're saying. Like, man, you develop through that. Everyone has to.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Most people are not.
Not everyone can be coachable. I agree with you.
No,
they have to change their mind.
Most people are not going to be able to teach themselves. Most people can't be self-taught, and they don't have the skills to do that. Some people can. Some people, you know what I mean? Like, there's famous guys that, you know, taught themselves jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean, that become world champion level guys just going to YouTube and drilling with their mate or with their brother or whatever. Like, man, guys teach themselves great, because this is a certain individual that's, you know, 1% that's dedicated, that's going to go there and do whatever it needs to be done to get to that point. The average person, man, you got to be coachable, dude. You got to listen to people. Like, for example, this is, man, and I get frustrated with this in the classes, and there's so many different things that I struggle with in terms of coaching. Man, I get annoyed in the classes when you explain the technique and people will go off and start talking to each other about the technique instead of asking you a question. And, man, I say it in the classes all the time, like, guys, if you understood the skills, if you knew all the same stuff, you would be teaching the class and not me. But, you know what I mean, you have the ability to ask the coach or talk to them and get the information you want. And that's something that sets Matt Barr apart. Man, at some point in time, I don't know what point it was as a belt level, but man, we train a lot. We've been training partners for a long time, and he's a similar size to me, and he's a very technical, skilled guy, and he's improved so much over such a short period of time because of his change in attitude. But man, what does he do? He comes and asks me all the time. Why? Yeah. Because I'm the one doing the techniques on him. Yeah. He doesn't go and ask the guy that's another...
That's funny when a white belt asks another guy that's a white belt that's been here for a week. And the guy answers it, the guy take it, and you just look like, man.
Or they start sharing, and I'm not saying that, I'm not deterring people from sharing information and doing that stuff, but all right, before you ask any questions, before you talk to each other and share techniques, do the work. You can't come here, drill 3 times, and then start spitballing ideas and, workshopping a technique. You can't even do it yet. You haven't even attempted to do it. I
have a saying that I created that's like, before you start showing, man, you have to be doing training with many different partners in real life. You're doing all the time. If you master that, all right, now you can start showing. And that's the same for the guy that's asking. Ask the guy that's doing with you 5 times in a row, because he knows how to do the position. You know, don't ask someone that never done it.
But man, I just think in general, before you ask any questions, do some work, man. Do some work.
True.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, people will drill a technique one time and they're already, but, if I put my leg like this, and what's the purpose of this? You're wasting your time, man. Do it 3,000 times. And then when you go and try it live and you have some mistakes and stuff like that, all right, let's adjust and correct. But man, the first thing you're already doing is wanting to talk before doing any work. Come on. You're not serious about getting good.
It's funny when you see, because the class, in our class, you got half an hour of drilling, and you're showing the half hour drilling part, your 10 minutes of you talking.
10-15 minutes of talking.
And you got a finite time. Yeah. Just rep it out. You got to get the reps.
Get your work done. That's right.
Don't talk, just reps. Boom.
You know what I mean? But it's much
also
easier,
the responsibility to put that in training. That's the only themselves can do it. That's the hardest thing. That's accountability. It's not a drill, all right, but now you have to try and train. And guess what? It's a lot harder. So you're going to have to...
Yeah, that's why it's so important you do the drills. Do you know what I mean? It's so hard to do it live training. You can't even do it more than 10 times on the guy when he's helping you. How are you going to improve, man?
And you have to do it tomorrow. Yeah. I remember... it's very important. Like, people don't take that, how much you think about jiu-jitsu, how much you drill, man, you can always stay for 10 minutes and drill the technique, but people, they want to show the new technique, the cool stuff. They never drill what they need. Yeah. This is something that I always criticize, But that's
just the same thing we talked about before, about not putting their pride aside. They're so caught up in their own pride and their own idea of themselves, or their image, which is, man, this is the modern landscape of people. Image is the most important thing now, not reality. Reality is something that's it's unflattering reality. No one wants unflattering. Everyone wants the most beautiful, amazing glory. Yeah. And the unfortunate thing is, if you get caught in that trap, which most of us do, you don't have the outcomes you want.
And like you saying, Matt, for you, the beauty, the pleasure of being training now, it's exactly to open up and try new things. I have the same thing. For me, a great day on the mat would be if I was able to do something that I haven't done before proficiently. Yeah, so it could be I defended a triangle in a different way that I used to, or I've done it a pass in a different way. That for me is brings but to do that, again, you have to drill. Or rolling
back take from the half guard.
Rolling back take from the half guard and make Anton laugh. Man, that's priceless.
Well, you got to take your little victories, hey? Yeah. So, when I roll with Anton, the outcomes, it's the same. Yeah. I get beaten every roll. Yeah. But I sometimes, I'll go home and I'll go...
good position.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go home and go, I went, nearly went to his back. Or, put him on bottom.
Triangle.
Yeah, I'm good at...
I love the word, when I train Fento, I love the word nearly. Oh, nearly. Nearly. Which doesn't count. But no, but anyway, the funny thing, this is the other thing too. You can tap, it happens to me, and that's that thing that happens to you too. I'll give you a couple examples, but from getting so many stimulus from Anton, now because you receive so many, you understand the time to do it as well. Do you know what I mean? for me, passing a guy, like putting my hip and getting heavy, now you do that all the time. You know what I mean? Like that is the lesson just in itself. Like you learn, you suffer so much, you learn, you know?
Big time.
If you open for it, right? If you have the right mindset.
100%. I remember when I first started here as a blue belt. Why do you think I'm so good at getting out of the side control, man? Do you know what I mean? Like I think it's very, very difficult to hold me in the side control. Why? Man, your side control is heavy as hell. Your side control is so powerful. But I got good at getting out of there or not letting you get there. And that's what makes you skillful. That's what makes you good at jiu-jitsu. Not because you want to, by default, man. Otherwise, it's going to stay there and choke you and smash you or get your arm, whatever. So you have to figure out, you have to be super accurate and go, all right, how am I going to address this flaw, this problem, this issue? And it doesn't stop at jiu-jitsu. That continues when you go home. That continues next week, next month, next year. You got to go home and do your own homework. You got to work on yourself every day. And if you're not willing to do that, then stay average. And that's unfortunate, but that's how it is.
And like, you know, like for example, I remember vividly that when I used to train, like there wasn't many black belts, right? And you training for black belts, it's such a privilege because you're training with someone that's technical. So you're gonna get an array of techniques that's gonna be displayed against you. And if you don't worry about the results, like you just worry about what's happening there, you'll be training jiu-jitsu with that person. So you have a great opportunity to learn. And I remember like in the culture of jiu-jitsu, when you finish the train, you say, oh, thank you very much. Like with a black belt, you'll be like, man, thank you so much. And people now, not everyone, but some people when they started, they go, I'm going to beat this guy. Man, you're not going to see what's happening. Guess what? Yeah. He's going to beat you 20 times, but you lost the great opportunity to see what happened because he was actually beating you with jiu-jitsu. It was the most technical, skillful guy or greatest opportunity you had to learn, you know? So...
Yeah, and that's just, again, getting out of the mindset of trying to win or trying to get the result as opposed to trying to see what's actually happening in front of you right now. And you're why are they beating you as opposed to, oh, they're beating me.
Exactly. What are they? Absolutely.
Yeah. I know, man, that battle of the pride, man, that's the biggest the biggest obstacle in jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, man.
True.
Like, there's other obstacles that are difficult to understand, but like the other ones are much more addressable, like because they're technical. You know what I'm saying? Like you can learn to understand the technical stuff better always. You're always going to be able to do that because it's like mathematics. It's like Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Like you can learn the formula. This thing to do with addressing yourself, there's no formula for that. It's very, very difficult. That takes years and years of focusing on that and going, look, I do have this issue. I'm a bit angry. I need to work on that. I'm a bit, proud. I'm too focused on winning and losing. My pride is really damaging me. That takes years of work, man. It takes years of your own work to go home and, like I said, not one day, not 1 week, not 1 year. It takes until you figure out how to address that, and that's going to be a constant battle for the rest of your life.
But that feeling is going to eat you alive. Like you train well, you go happy days, and you train bad, you go devastated home. This is going to make jiu-jitsu unpleasant at one point.
Man, that makes
so
life
if you don't
unpleasant.
change exactly, and you take to other walks of life, you take an unpleasant life. Like you have to learn, you have to be happy to have lessons. You know what I mean? And address it. Think about it.
But nobody does the work, man. That's the problem. People always talk about doing the work because it's easy to say that. Yeah, I've been working on the half guard for 3 years. All right, what sweep do you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I've been working on myself. What have you been doing? I wrote down, my feelings in a book.
Yeah.
What did that produce over this amount of time? What's the work? What are you doing? What do you got to present? You know what I mean? Are you researching how things work? Are you researching your jiu-jitsu? Are you doing your stuff at home every day? Are you doing your stuff at home every week? Man, I'm the same. I always complain about injuries. I don't stretch enough. That's my fault. It's not your fault. It's not my mum's fault. It's not the universe's fault. It's my fault. I'm not stretching enough. That's why I get injured. I need to correct that. I need to work on that. And I do my best and I, suffer with it. And I go, my back's sore. I can be training too much, lifting too heavy, not enough stretch. But man, you have to do the work. Nobody wants to do the work, but they want the outcome. And that's why they're stuck in this cycle. I've got this issue of pride. and I'm not willing to lose to improve, but I want to be better. And they're stuck there. But something's got to give. Either you're going to stay like this and be unhappy for the rest of your life, or you got to start being uncomfortable and doing the job and doing the work. And that's the battle of life.
And there's nothing better in jiu-jitsu than training someone that has the same mindset as you.
Oh, man.
Of like, man, I that's all I want right now. I'm 45. I do have no problem in tapping, but all I want to do is train tapping for someone that's doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I don't want to be punched in the face, elbow in the mouth 3 times to then, I don't want that. I can't do that. That's not fun.
What you'll find is when you are a student who does the jiu-jitsu, who exchanges positions, guess what? All the higher belts want to train with you. So you're going to get the best rolls for the class.
And you're going to improve because of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you go crazy and you want to win and you fight for your life, guess what?
You brawl.
But higher belts, they
won't touch you. They won't touch you. Take it 10 times more.
I don't want to risk getting injured rolling with a white belt who's, going to kick me in the head 40 times and doesn't even realise he did it.
Yeah.
He's not doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
He's a pub brawling.
So,
yeah, correct. And the problem is that pride that you bring to make a pub brawl with the guy that's, you're a veteran of this stuff now. Doing for a long time. Man, why am I gonna I did the phase of doing pub brawl.
Yeah.
I don't want to do pub brawl anymore, man. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's for a competition, if it's for comp training or something like that, all right, different story. But man, if I'm coming here to work on some skills and the guy's ripping your skin off, trying to get you here and poking you in the eye and tearing your eyebrows out, like, man.
Bumps and bruises happen in training, but nothing annoys me more is when they don't even, like, they'll kick you in the head 4 times. They don't even realise they've done it. It's like, man,
that's crazy. Yeah.
How are you even aware of, like, what you're doing right now?
Nah, man, the only thing he's aware of is pride, or she or he is, man, I'm beating my chest like the gorilla, and I'm making force, and I'm making power, and I'm going to get you, and I'm going to squeeze your neck, and I'm going to rip your skin and scratch your face in the process without even realising. And again, it's that same idea. You said, that guy's the coach, or that guy's the black belt, and I'm going to do everything I can to win. And it's like, it's unlikely you're going to win, but you can try, and you're still going to fail, or you're still not going to have a good experience.
You lost opportunity.
You lost opportunity to apply yourself to learn, man. And I get the thing that there's a time and place for doing hard training. There's a time and place for brawling. You want to brawl, man? Enter a comp. Go there and brawl with whoever you want. Yep. The guys are going to be the same weight, the same skill, man. That brawling will actually work. Because now the guys are the same skill as you.
Yep.
They brawl all you want. Make as much power, explode, punch the guy in the neck, whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? Do whatever you want.
But hopefully you do a little bit of technique on the side, so otherwise you're not going to win.
You're probably going to lose. But man, that's the time to do that. Or you want to do comp training, or you organise with somebody, I want to train hard this way. Yeah, no problem. But man, if you go there every day with that idea or that approach, you're going to waste your life, and nothing's going to happen.
And no one will want to train with you. Yeah. So it's hard to exchange positions with higher belts who just want to avoid you because you've got a reputation of being a brawler. So, I think the best thing is, as a student, you just need to come and actually use jiu-jitsu to make the positions happen. Yeah,
I've talked about this before, but I think people get caught in that trap because early on when they started, they brawled and they had success with brawling. You know what I mean? They get good at a kimura early or something like that, and they're already physically stronger than someone else or whatever. Yeah. And now I just can rely on this. And the problem is you get caught in this like false, secure area. Like, man, it's not that effective. And but I'm a strong guy, man, and I get it. And all right, no problem. And that's gonna last for 3 years. Or that's going to last for 4 years. It depends on your age. Maybe you're 35, man. That's going to last for 2 years, man.
It'll last to a certain skill level, and then when you you start getting guys who are better, they're just going to address that because they're just going to.
It's a one-faceted approach to success, and it's not versatile.
Yeah,
you got to have many different approaches. You got to understand what this is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and that's difficult. I know it takes time. I know it's difficult, but man. This stuff gets me get a bit agitated, man. This is, I get it, man. I get it. This is the battle of jiu-jitsu, the battle of your own mind. The battle of your own mind is the most difficult thing you're ever going to deal with in your life. And jiu-jitsu can help you do that. it throws it in your face every day. You know, when you feel bad because you lost, that's jiu-jitsu telling you need to fucking improve.
Yeah.
You need to get better. But the problem is people like, nah, I'll just, whatever. Well, I'll whatever, you do that for long enough, man, you don't have a good outcome.
And speaking, like talking and actions are completely different thing. But people think by talking they actually doing it. It's crazy to observe how people have mismanaged these two things. You know, I have a friend that's starting a diet, and I said to him, man, you're on a diet. Like, what are you doing? He's like, oh no, I'm gonna start cycling every day. I said, man, when was the last time you got on a bicycle, man? Like, it doesn't stop, man. Don't bullshit, like, you know. But look, I was just gonna ask you, Matt, like, what were you like? Just, you know, plans for the future. Do you have any plans for the future? You know, you just play.
Yeah, so I definitely plan to sort of focus as I get older, focus on a career. I'm at uni at the moment studying masters in finance, so I'm actively looking to sort of transition into a more finance role at the moment, and then work in sort of equity research and things like that, potentially for a bank or an investment firm. Well, that's the plan anyway. Keep coming to jiu-jitsu. See, like, nothing changes. I got my black belt, but I'm still here the same amount every week. Just keep training, keep exploring. I don't have any specific goals in jiu-jitsu. I think it's just a case of trying to get better every day, and just having the mindset of trying new things, being open to it, and exchanging positions with good guys, and you'll get the rub, and you'll get better for sure.
You know this like pursuit for like self-improvement and stuff like that. Do you think that comes from jiu-jitsu? Does that come from you doing jiu-jitsu? Like, are you forced into that through like the learning of this accountability, or is there other like influences, like other guys from jiu-jitsu or other, you know, podcasts? I know a lot of guys, like, you know, all these inspirational guys of.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to some podcasts. I've always been pretty driven, I would say.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to sort of do the best I can at things and improve. But for sure, jiu-jitsu sort of illuminated me to the fact that, you know, it's probably the most difficult pursuit I've ever done. And it's given me the confidence to say, if I pursue this and I am accountable and I'm a good student, I'll get good outcomes. And then you literally apply that rule to whatever pursuit.
Yeah, it gives you confidence to have the same outcome.
Well, that's right. So now, I'm going through and doing my masters at the moment, and, you know, jiu-jitsu for sure has taught me discipline, and I apply the same principles as I'm consistent with the work I do, and I'm doing the work that's assigned to me, and I'm doing it, you know, I set myself a goal every week of I'm going to study X amount of hours, and at the end of the day, if you do that, you will get good results, and I'm literally applying the rules I've learned here to that, and then whatever pursuit I want to do in the future, whatever that may be, I think these like values are instilled in me, so it's given me the confidence to go, no matter what pursuit I choose in the future, if I apply these principles, I will get good outcomes.
It's very similar to how I take my life too.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. Like, that's the jiu-jitsu values, right?
Yeah.
Like in your life.
Yeah, the values you learn here are literally, and that's the best thing about it, is they're literally applied to whatever pursuit you want to go down, whatever path you choose. You do the work. You're accountable. You're a good student. You listen. You take criticism, and you apply it. You will get good outcomes.
And the funny thing about jiu-jitsu is the criticism's in your face, man.
Well, that's right.
Self-criticism.
Yeah, like.
What happened here? Oh, damn. All right, better fix that. Or what happened? You don't even need a coach, man, a lot of the time. In terms of like telling you all the time, you're gonna figure it out on your own, or you're gonna stay the same. Yeah.
Exactly. True. There's no bullshit with it.
Yeah.
Like, it works or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like and
We don't even have mirrors, man.
yeah, it's just like, I mean, I think like having Anton here as well, like that definitely keeps it fresh and exciting, because it gives you an appreciation of like what elite jiu-jitsu is.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to roll with Anton, you know, basically every day I come in, and you know, if he wasn't there, you know, and I'm doing well against everyone else, I think maybe you could fall into the trap of like, oh, you know, I'm pretty good, like I'm good. And this
Big
and that.
fish in a small tank.
Well, that's exactly right. And then you got Anton, then you go, okay, there's levels to this, and you know, I'm competent. I feel like I've got good jiu-jitsu, but then there's a gap. There's a gap, and that's also what keeps it exciting and keeps you wanting to come down, because you look at Anton and you go, okay, well, like, this is what is possible. This is the decision, the speed of the decision making, the reactions, the timing, everything is and the more levels to it, and gives you appreciation of that.
And the more you have people with different games as well that actually put you in trouble on this puzzle, that actually also is important, you know, like.
That's the funny thing is,
the more guys we have,
hard game to solve.
The more guys we have in knowledge in different areas, the more exciting it gets for people that have open mind. They want to learn and improve themselves. 100%. Matt, I just want to say one thing, Paul. It's nothing new. Like for us, we always said between us, like many times, we're like, oh man, Matt's improving so much. Oh, Matt's great training with. I told you this before. Like, I think you become one of the best roles, like in terms of fun, and because you have that mindset that you do. You're also doing amazing work here with the classes. You know what I mean? Like it's been like a great feedback, and you know, like so. We can just say. Thanks to be in this journey with us, you know what I mean? Like we really appreciate you. We really appreciate you like training as a training partner. You know what I mean? And I think we're just having this mindset. The sky's the limit. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I appreciate obviously you guys as well. Having you guys down, somewhere to come every day and train, and then also just to talk to as well. It's just a great environment, I think, for anybody. It only really has its positives. It's just positives. Great community, great for your health, great for your mental health, physical, and then it also just gives you the confidence to sort of, understand that, giving you the confidence in learning a hard skill that you can take into any other pursuit you want to go down. I think jiu-jitsu is, looking back, like on my life so far, I would say is probably the most noble pursuit I've gone. I have absolutely no regrets with choosing this path. It's been awesome. So it's been great, and I'm so grateful that I chose this club to walk into.
Well, I'm grateful as a instructor to get students and people coming with this kind of attitude, man. It's very humbling to notice other people kind of choosing the same kind of adopting the same mentality or learning or benefiting in jiu-jitsu the same way you have. It's always beautiful to kind of notice, man.
It's awesome.
But yeah, man, thanks so much for being a part of the club, and thanks so much for coming on and doing the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
It was